السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ما بعد. So this is class 17, which is most likely the last class from this book, The Manners of the Student of Knowledge. And it's two sections here that we're going to go through. The first one being Al-Hadru min al-Fitan, which is being cautious of fitna, being cautious about fitna. Now the question is, what is fitna, number one, so that we all on the same page about what fitna is, which is a word we always hear, but what is fitna? Temptation. Say it again.
Like particular difficulty, something that can be
difficulty.
Something
that's bothering you.
Ignorance.
Tayyib. Fitna.
Taken away from what's already been established.
Taking away what's already been established. Tayyib. Fadal. A trial.
Any type of like negative distraction.
Any type of negative distraction. Tayyib. A trial, a test, difficulty, whatever word you want to use, all of those are right. Something that's a trial, it's a test for you, it's a difficulty for you, right? Everybody, some things, some trials or tests are general. All of us are affected by it. And then some things are specific to people. Some people go through specific situations that the person sitting next to them are not going through. So that difficulty is in their life, and the same fitna is not in the person sitting next to them. Everybody clear? Which is important because you never know what the brother sitting next to you or the sister sitting next to you or a person, anybody, you never know what they're going through, right? So this section, you figure we're talking about a person, the talib, and the person who's trying to learn Islam. With everything that's been covered before, at the end, the section is staying away from or being cautious about the different trials, tests, difficulties. We're talking about things that we're able to avoid. Because there's some things you might not be able to avoid. Like what? Death, for sure. What else? You can't avoid somebody dying that you're close to. And at the time of death, that's a trial, that's a fitna, that's a difficulty that everybody goes through. What else is something that you can't avoid?
I'm gonna say this right. And this might be personal, but at the same time, a lot of folks go through it. It's create fitna from your wife.
No doubt. Fitna from the wives. For sure, your family. Allah says in the Quran, speaking about the family, not just the wives, your children also, that they are fitna for you, right? Somebody else? Sicknesses, some things you can't avoid. So in this case, he's mentioning some of the things on how to stay away from them and being cautious about fitna. So the first thing he says is that it's a lot of different types of fitan. Fitan is just the plural of fitna, fitan. It's a lot of different types of trials and tests, right? The Prophet ﷺ described them as being so many different types of trials. He described them as being qatarat al-matar, raindrops, right? In the hadith. He said, Inni ara mawaqi al-fitan khilal buyutikum ka mawaqi al-qatar. So everybody got to understand that just because you not being tested with that doesn't mean it's not difficult on the brother sitting next to you. You with me? Or the sister sitting next to you. Tayyib. He says after that, some trials, some things, some tests that we go through are very small. They're small. And some of them are little or are big. Of course, most people would probably agree the biggest fitna that a person goes through is what? Being tested in your deen. Would everybody agree with that? The biggest difficulty that a person goes through is what? Being tested in your deen. You agree with that? I'm not saying you're right or wrong. I'm just asking. Is that one word? Everybody agree with that?
Because people got, some days they got high man and low man.
So the biggest difficulty a person faces in their life is being tested with their deen.
Because mostly all affairs will lead back to that. If you tested by your wife, then you know you're going to come back to how strong you really man.
Well, let me rephrase the question.
If you tested how by death, you're going to come back to how strong you really man. You might pretty much start questioning certain things that you're not supposed to question due to certain events, and it all lead back to how strong you really man.
Let me rephrase the question. Things happen in life, right? Things happen. What's the most devastating thing that happens to a person? Huh? Death. Everybody, right? And I'm not saying what she's, I'm just saying, most people gonna say death is probably one of the, where a person's iman is a serious, it's a line drawn at that point. And that's when you really test it. Death will test to see how strong your faith is. Somebody dies close to us, how we respond and carry on in life after the death is the trial. That's the test, right? Along with the other things. And there's things that are that great, and then there's things that's smaller. It's things, it's tests that we go through that are smaller than that everybody's affected by death. But there's some things that might not bother me that much, that might bother you. It might not bother you, it might bother me, right? And everybody, a person that says, that's a fitna for me, such and such. Like I heard people say, soda. Soda good for you? Soda's bad, it's not good for your health. But some people have a problem with sodas. And the person that says soda's a fitna. For me, you might not have a problem with soda. You could drink a soda and not drink a soda for a year. Some people got to drink a couple sodas a day, right? So in that case, a person to say that soda is a fitna for me. Why? Because eventually it's going to affect the person's health. So the point being is to understand when we're talking about the trial or the difficulty that sometimes these things are large, big things, and sometimes it's something small according to the person. Now, the Prophet ﷺ said in this hadith, and this hadith is an Hudhayfa radiallahu anhu. And he's talking about some of the larger difficulties or trials that a person goes through, right? Because in the previous hadith that I didn't mention, he says, وَمِنْهُنَّ الْفِتْنِ كَرِيَةُ السَّيْفِ مِنْهَا الصِّغَارٌ وَمِنْهَا كِبَارٌ. From the different types of difficulties, some things are very small and some things are large. He says, وَمِنْهَا مَا يَمُوجُ كَالْمَوْجِ. Some things, كَمَوْجِ الْبَحْرِ. Some things are very difficult times that we go through in our lives. And he brings a hadith of Hudhayfa radiallahu anhu. And Hudhayfa says, كُنَّا جُلُوسًا عند عمر radiallahu anhu. He said we were all sitting with Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu. So the question, he says, فَقَالَ, Umar asked him, أَيُّكُمْ يَحْفَظُ حَدِيثَ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ فِي الْفِتْنَةِ كَمَا قَالَ. He said, who from y'all memorized a statement from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a hadith from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when it comes to fitna trials, but you memorize it exactly how he said it? Who memorized something exactly how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said it? Tayyib. Who's narrating the story, y'all? Huh? Hudhayfa radiallahu anhu. He said, we're sitting with Umar ibn al-Khattab. Umar says, radiallahu anhu, Who from amongst y'all has memorized the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam just as he said it? A hadith regarding fitna, just like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said it. Who did that? Hudhayfa says, "Faqultu ana." He said, "I did." Everybody with me? Like, the point of this narration is that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentioned 5 things that happened, and then he mentioned 5 things to combat the fitna. All right, he mentioned 5 difficulties or trials or tests that a person goes through, and then he mentioned 5 things to combat the fitna. So he says, "Qultu sami'tu Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam yaqul." He said, I heard the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam say, "Fitnatul rajul," a man's trial would be fi ahlihi, in his family, right? Wa malihi, his money. Wa nafsihi, himself, could be his health, could be his soul, right? Wa waladihi, his children. Wa jarihi, and his neighbors. That's where the fitna, the trials fall in, right? A person to be tested with their family, right? And they said family and children. Money, a person, whether it be their health, their children, and their neighbors. He said, well, yukaffiruha. And he says, what's going to offset that or help a person to fight against those 5 things when the fitna comes in those areas? He said, well, yukaffiruha as-siyam, fasting. Was salat, praying. What's that meant by praying?
5 salat.
No, for sure praying.
Getting up at night.
5, of course, the 5 prayers, of course, because that's extra prayers. Extra prayers. Or sadaqah, giving charity, right? Wal amru bil ma'ruf, commanding the good. Wal nahyi anil munkar, and forbidding the evil. He said those 5 things will offset that. فقال عمر رضي الله عنه ليس هذا أريد إنما أريد التي تموج كالموج البحر. He said, I was talking about things that are a little more serious than that. Point being that it's different avenues that we want to be tested in. It's for everybody to understand, everybody, all of us have to understand in our lives, where is the test in my life? Because what I'm tested with, you might not be tested with. And everybody has a different test. And then some things we share. So it's on everybody to find, okay, if I'm being trialed and I'm having difficulty in this area, that's for me to recognize that, number one. I need to recognize that. And sometimes it takes somebody else pointing it out to us. We don't like when people point it out to us. But sometimes people got to point it out to us that you're not doing well in this area as a Muslim or as a person in general. And then we take that as criticism. And most people don't like to be criticized. But as for me to know, all right, this is my test, and now I need to work on fixing it. Everybody clear? Tayyib. He says here, which is the next point that we'll do, number 4, which is Naha Islam an at-ta'arrud lil fitan. Islam has prohibited us. We are not supposed to be people who put ourselves in a position to be tested with something. You're not supposed to put yourself in a position to be in some type of difficult situation, if that makes sense. Meaning, if a person is a recovering alcoholic or recovering drug addict or recovering from anything that they want, even if it's not alcohol and drugs, just a recovering alcoholic should not be going anywhere near where? Alcohol or a bar. Why? They put themselves in a position to fall into that difficulty again. Clear? Putting a fox in a hen house? I gotta think about that. Yes. Yeah. I like that one. That's like having a monkey. That's a good one. Yeah, that's like having a monkey guard the bananas. So you don't put yourself, he said, Islam has prohibited us from putting ourselves, whatever the fitna is. Alcohol is just an example. Some people got, whatever the trial is, I left that trying to be a better person, trying to be a better Muslim, right? There's no way I should put myself in a position, in an area, a place where they're going to be doing that same thing that I ran from, right? He says, well, Yusuf alayhi salam haraba min al-fitan. Yusuf alayhi salam, he ran in the opposite direction when the test and the trial came to him, right? Which is in Surah Yusuf, verse number 33, where Yusuf says, where Allah says, قَالَ رَبِّ السِّجْنُ أَحَبُّ إِلَيَّ مِمَّا يَدْعُونَنِي إِلَيْهِ. Yusuf said, alayhi salam, he said, oh Allah, prison is better for me than what they're calling me to try to do. Prison is better, Yusuf alayhi salam said. Running from, what was he running from? What fitna? The fitna, the trial of the women who were calling him to make zina with him, right? He said, prison is better for me than to go to that, which shows, as he says here, that we're not to put ourselves in positions where I already left that trying to be a better Muslim. There's no way I'm going back there. And this we got to understand, y'all. When people do that, because sometimes people do that, right? And you don't understand the trial that they went through and how long it took them to get away from that. So you think they being extra and overboard because they won't do something. And to you, it ain't no big deal, but that wasn't your trial. That wasn't your deal. You ain't no testing that. Allah didn't test you with that. So to you, it's no big deal. So you might be able to deal with whatever the circumstances, but the other person like, no, I'm not going nowhere near there. And you're like, come on, man, ain't no big deal like that. We only gonna be there 10 minutes. They like, no, I can't do that. I can't go there. 10 minutes might be, for me, 10 minutes is enough to get a life sentence. And we be looking at each other like, you doing too much, you overboard. No. You don't know the test that a person had, that the struggle they had to pull away from that. Now, not that you're intentionally trying to put them back in that position, but the situation, if I ride with you down there, it might put me back in this compromising situation. So I got to decline. Everybody clear? Whatever the situation may be. Like we said, Shaykh al-Islam rahimahullah says, "At-ta'arrud lil-fitan huwa min adh-dhunub." He said, for a person, Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he said, for a person to intentionally put themselves in a situation like that is a sin. To intentionally take myself, knowing that's what I ran from, and to put myself back in that situation, he said, this is considered to be a sin. Tayyib. How to protect yourself from sins. How to protect yourself from the fitna, from those compromising or those dangerous situations, right? Anybody want to take a wild guess at the first thing? How do I keep myself from being in difficult situations? How? Don't be in that area, yeah. Dua. Dua, no doubt. He said the first thing is that you make dua. I want to be clear we understand what fitna is, y'all. I want to be clear we understand what this fitna is. But I don't want to just make a list. I want us to share ideas of what is fitna.
Can I give an example?
Yes.
Like the type of work I do, right? I do Uber Eats, so I'll be on a flight. Right? This is a fitness for me. I go to the supermarket to get an order, right? There's 8 women in there, and I turn around, I go this way. 5 women walking past with perfume, women laughing and all that. That's like a fitness.
No doubt.
No matter if you downtown for 8 hours straight, in and out, you can go to the University of Penn and Drexel campus. It's like, hey, where you turning?
Women, especially in the type of environment we living in, women not dressed. It's getting hot. It's fitna for men, period. This for men, males, it's a fitna for men in general. Anybody know the hadith about the biggest fitna left that the Prophet ﷺ spoke about? Nisa, women. So that's one of those things that we share. Whether we talk about it or we don't talk about it. Whether we speak about it or we don't speak about it, it's something that's shared amongst men, the fitna of women coming out, they're not dressed, and the fitna of having to deal with what we have to see every day on a daily basis. What else? Money. What you mean?
What I mean, money is, well, several examples. One, money can deter a person from coming to the masjid because they're afraid that they're going to miss out on some financial gain. Due to that time spent in prayer is, going. And then you also, people like nice stuff. But, people now say it's okay to have nice stuff. But when you make that your primary goal and it affects your religion and the practice of your religion, it becomes a fit.
Money could be a fitna to the when it's to the point that it affects your deen. How does it affect your deen now? How can making money affect my deen? You're skipping Jummah, you're skipping prayers, you're not praying on time. The type of environment we live in anyway, y'all. We spend time in areas that are not conducive or they're not, what do you call it? They're not healthy for your deen. But we do what we have to do because we have to do it. On top of that, if I'm not balancing that time out that I'm in those type of environments by going to the masjid, going to class and learn, eventually that type of environment wears me down. So now sister, she used to cover at work. But slowly but surely, she starts to uncover at work. Not all at once. Sway a little bit here. First, she don't wear, she was covered all the way up. Then the overgarment, the body got a little smaller, a little tighter. Then it went to no abaya, no overgarment. Just a pants, baggy pants, right? Then it went from baggy pants to tight pants. Still got a khimar though. It went from tight pants with a long shirt to tight pants and a short shirt with the khimar, right? A little over time. Those environments, they are what they are, and we may have to work. If we don't balance our deen out by being in the masjid, being in classes, learning, if we don't balance that, eventually, for the brothers and the sisters, it takes a toll. The brother, he's working and working and working, and if you work in certain shifts, you don't get to pray in the masjid except for maybe 2 prayers a day, maybe. So what I do now, let me get some overtime, so I don't get any prayers a day. Right? Everybody with me? That takes a toll on you. And I'm not saying everybody quit their jobs, none of that. I'm just saying this is what we in. We live. This is how we live. We live and we work in areas that they're not Islamic setup functioning type of situations. It's our job to balance our lives out with our deen. Where we go to work, they're not concerned about you, whatever you're doing. You do that on your time. Tell you what else besides money and women? Children. No doubt, both of them. Children. How are your children a fitna? How are your children a trial? Sit down, listen. Further. No, you said it. We starting with you. Who you trying?
Sometimes they can stop you from going taking care of responsibility if they sick or they may need some type of other attention other than staying in school, medical attention, things like that. You can be on your way to work and they sick. You got to pick them up. They can't go to work. You got to pick them up in school.
Tell you, if they're sick, then that's your obligation. You fulfilling the obligation. Taking care of your kids, that's an obligation if they're sick. You see what I'm saying? How's it going to affect my deen in a negative way, though? Because that's not going to necessarily, that's what I mean. I'm sorry. How can my children affect my Islam in a negative way?
Sometimes as parents get lax with regard to the rules of the law, trying to make the kids feel good.
Sometimes we're trying to please the children, so we're willing to go against Islam to make my kids happy. And that's the danger of that statement, like my kids are everything, and this is my everything. No. The children, the parents, we're responsible to raise our children as Muslims, according to the Islamic law. That's what we're responsible for. Now, the wisdom in how we do that, that's a conversation. But how can the children be a fitna? They can be a fitna because I'm trying to please them. So I let them do something that a Muslim not supposed to be doing. And if I keep doing that, it's going to be a buildup for me.
I know a lot of times we always talk about rights of the spouses. Children got rights over the
No
parents.
doubt,
Parents
no
got
doubt.
rights over the children. And I know for a lot of us, that's a fitting too, where, like you said, people got work, all this other different stuff we got going on. You know, Allah commands us to raise our children a certain type of way.
Yes.
What does that look like in our everyday life? Whether I do Uber Eats, or I do parking, or somebody, whatever, a trash man, work for the city. There's still a certain amount of time that whether we single, whether we married, divorced,
No doubt.
the kids still got their right, whether they 5 years old, 10 years old, whatever
Saajid.
age they is, where we supposed to be trying, we supposed to be setting the example first by living like Muslims every day.
Jay,
All right, who want to teach his son how to pray?
Who wanna
Who
teach
how
him?
to pray? Who wanna teach
That's
him
a
how
good
to
one.
talk Eid and everything else?
from the opposite
We the
end,
first teachers.
from the opposite end, the children, not that the children are bad, they're now my responsibility. You had a bunch of kids, now they're your responsibility, right? It's your responsibility to give them time and to give them the things they need to be raised up as functioning Muslims in the society. Not just Muslims in the society, Muslims who can function in society, right? Functioning Muslims in the society. And that could be, that's on me now. That's my fitna that I have to find out. I have to find out how to make time for that consistently. Tell you what else a fitna?
I would say self-amazement.
What you mean, self-amazement?
Like you just think so much good of yourself. Like I don't gotta go to that class. Like how you talking about?
No doubt.
Salah class, 'cause I already know Salah.
What's the other word for that? Arrogance, self-amazement, thinking way too highly of yourself, having a lack of humility. A big fitna that we deal with, a big one, a big fitna. The brother said, the biggest fitna. Divorce. People don't understand the effect that comes with divorce until they in it. But on everything leading up to divorce, nobody cares about the results. Nobody cares. Everybody is in their bag. I want what I want. She want what she want. Whatever happens, happens. Until after the divorce and there's kids involved and he gets remarried, she gets remarried, now it's fitna. Now it's a problem. Now it's a problem when the father is not in the life of his son, specifically his son or his daughter, both of them, because it's effects. If a man does not raise his son, that boy is going to have issues when he gets to be a teenager. It's going to come out. It's all cute when they small and you dressing them up with little thobes and stuff. All that's cute. Once they get to be in them teenage age, it's a different person. If her father's not there, she's going to have some issues when she get older, when she start dealing with men.
Another big fitna is also marriage.
Marriage,
It's a big fitna.
no doubt. And these are not, if you notice, these things are not things necessarily that are bad. Marriage is khair, it's good. Children are good, right? These are things that Islam encourages. But with those things, a person could be tested in their deen at the same time. That's why we got to be balanced. He says, al-isma min al-fitan. How do you protect yourself from these different types of trials and difficulties? He says, number one, a-du'a, making du'a. And the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to the Sahaba, to the companions, in this hadith, ta'awwadhu billah min al-fitan ma dhahara minha wa ma batan. He says, seek Allah's protection from the fitna, was clear from fitna and was not clear. Because sometimes you don't even know it's a problem. You put yourself in a situation you didn't know it was that deep until it hits the fan. You see what I'm saying? He says, so seek Allah's protection from the things that are clearly a problem and from the things that's not clearly a problem. I might not know it's a problem, but if you're making dua, asking Allah to protect you from it, Allah will protect you from the things that you didn't even see were going to be a problem in the future. We call that what? Allah protects you from something that you didn't even see was going to be a problem. What do we call that? What, man? Huh? What'd you say? Preventive maintenance. Alhamdulillah. I ain't gonna say we call it. I'm gonna say some people call that. They say, I dodged a bullet. I didn't even know that was a problem. I just happened to do it like this, and Allah saved me from it. Right? Dua. He said, ask Allah. The Prophet said, ask Allah to protect you from the clear things that are fitna and from the things that's not clear. He said, so the Prophet, so the Sahaba qalu, na'udhu billah min al-fitna ma dhahra minha wa ma batan. So the Sahaba said, we said, oh Allah, protect us from the fitna, was clear, was apparent, and was not apparent. That's number one, making dua. He says, number two, bil-bu'd an al-fitn, stand away from the fitna. Stand away from it. Whatever it is. The problem is sometimes we wrapped up in things that are harming us and we don't even know. Huh? We wrap them in things, number one, it doesn't concern me. Number two, I might be into something I don't know that is harming me. I don't even know it's a fitna on me. That's how far gone I am. Oh man, the playoffs. Don't mess the brothers up. All right? That's a fitna. No doubt. Sports is a fitna. If you can't get up, if you're watching sports, if you're not able to get up and leave and pray, you're not able to keep your Islam intact with a sports event going or whatever it is, right? We don't delay salat. Delay salat meaning pray outside of the salat time, y'all. Make sure we understand. Delay the salat means Asr is over at 8. You praying Asr at 9:30 because you was watching something. It don't have to be sports, a movie, whatever it is. If we can't get up and leave these things and do what we're supposed to do, our responsibilities as Muslims, that means whatever that is a fitna for me. It might be sports, it might be movies, it might be a documentary, it might be a talk show. It could be family gathering. We having a family gathering, we talking. Excuse me, I'll be right back, I gotta go pray. What's hard about that? If they wanted to go smoke while you was talking to them, they'll go smoke. They'll go pour a drink and come back and get like they'll do whatever they feel like doing, they'll go do. Why we got a problem? Say, excuse me, I'll be back. I gotta go pray. I'm gonna step outside. Whatever I gotta do, I'll be right back. I gotta go pray. If we can't do that, then those things become a fitna for me. And everybody's different. Some people don't have a problem. They stop, they leave, I'll be right back. And for some people, you know, may Allah protect us, be glued to the tube. He says, number two, stand far away from it. وإغلاق أي سبيل تصل منها إليك. Stand away from the fitna and closing all the doors, as we say, that lead to that. Anything that's going to lead me to doing that, I cut it off. I shut it down. Everybody clear? Like what? That's number two. Number two had two parts. That I stay far away from it. And number two, that I cut off any pathways that's going to take me to it. I'm trying to stay away from it. What? Oh man, I didn't say that. That's you saying that. If that's how you feel, then Bismillah. You need something for Allah, Allah give you something better. Right? So stand far away from it. The fitna that we have, one thing that we have in Philly, it's a Philly fitna. Y'all ready? We all know it. We be arguing. Everything's an argument with us, between each other. We do a lot of bickering, back and forth, arguing, bickering in Philly. We done carried it over to the internet. So everybody's looking at us on the internet. Like, being in those arguments is a fitna in general. It's in general, it's a fitna. Why is it a fitna being in those arguments and bickering? This person is this person's that, they this, they that. What's the fitna in that? Some people don't see a problem with it. Good, that's a good one. Those conversations, many times, it increases the hostility towards one another. It makes people mad. Brothers and sisters are mad at each other. And that's not the origin of the relationship between the Muslims. But those conversations, because there's people who don't think it's a fitna. They think this is what the deen, we have to do this. So people don't see it as a fitna, right? Because it has to be done doesn't necessarily mean it's not a fitna, and it's not for everybody.
It can lead to, of course, backbiting.
Backbiting from those conversations, backbiting.
And also lying.
Lying from those conversations, lying. From them conversations, a spread of ignorance. People don't really know. They just, somebody told me, they don't really know if that's the truth.
Depending on how, with the level of ignorance on people, some people shed the blood over the Muslims.
Yes.
Over religious arguments.
Yeah. Depending on the conversation, some people ready to take it to the street. They ready to spill blood of another Muslim based on some of them conversations. Fitna. And when the fitna comes like that, staying away is the best thing to do. Most of the people involved are not charged with having to say anything.
See, we live in a society where people gravitate towards the fitna. Like,
No doubt.
somebody outside fighting right now, people won't go outside, they move towards it.
Right.
Then when somebody gets shot, they were like, oh, well, you shouldn't have went towards it. You don't know these two guys
Right.
got guns on them.
No doubt. We gravitate towards the fitna. Right? So we'll, like you said, somebody's outside fighting, everybody, we're gonna run out and see it. If they start shooting, you catch a straight bullet. Back in the day, if they start shooting, you're supposed to do what? Get low. We standing around heads in the sky looking and trying to see who's shooting. Trying to record and all that. Stay away from it. Getting far away from the fitna and closing off anything that's going to lead me to that. Taibi says, the last one, he said, filling your time up with things that's going to benefit you in the hereafter. Spending your free time, with things that's going to benefit you in the hereafter. If you had to take a guess, right? We had to estimate, just an estimation. I'm sorry. Filling your free time with things that are beneficial in the hereafter. That's going to benefit you in the next life. If you had to take a random estimation, how much free time would you say, just free time with nothing, no, absolutely no obligation tied to you? How much free time do you think in your brain, just for you, do you have a day?
You asking as an individual?
Yeah, individually,
Based on your schedule?
based on your schedule.
Me, about 3 hours.
About 3. You said about 3 or 4? About 3 to 5. You know what I'm saying? Huh? How many do you think you got?
Right. Probably got like 6.
6?
Is this inside of
Whatever you.
or outside? Because that depends on if you got a day off and you got to put prayer in your schedule. So
Prayer is part of the day. I prayed. I did all my obligations as a Muslim to this point. So, for example, right now, it is just pray Asr. I done went to work. I went to pick the kids up, went to the market. I got free time. How many of those slots do you get per day? And now add the hours up. Everybody different.
it depends. You single, you got
All right, cool. Sometimes, right? No. It's free time, but I'm going to sleep in it. I'm going to use this time to catch up on some rest, right? Or I'm going to use this time to watch the game. Or I'm going to use this time to do what? Go to the gym. Everybody going to choose whatever they want to do. You with me? Read Quran. Whatever you're going to do, we're making the choices. We're making the choices to take that time, and we fill that time up with whatever we choose to fill it up with, right? The point is to fill that time with things that are going to be beneficial in the hereafter. That's the idea, to try to fill that time up with something that's going to benefit. Don't fill it up with don't fill all of those. If I got 3 hours, don't fill all 3 hours up of my free time a day with, as we say, play and amusement. I ain't gonna say the phone because you can be on the phone benefiting. If you want to be on the phone, you could be on YouTube watching the lecture. You could be on YouTube studying. You could be doing something. Don't fill the whole 5 hours up that you have of free time a day with just just amusing yourself. Fill some of that time up with something that's going to be beneficial in the hereafter. Tayyib. The last section is al-bu'du an al-ma'asi, staying away from sins. Staying away from sins. He says, number one, that per people in general, Allah honored us, right? And the more a person worships Allah, the more obedience we do, right? The more worship we do, the better we are with Allah Jalla wa'ala. Tayyib. He says, وَتَسْخُرُ بِمَعْصِيَةِ اللَّهِ. And the more we disobey Allah, the lower we are. We lower ourselves in front of Allah by disobeying Allah. Right? He says, so, صاحب المعصية ذليل. The person who is constantly sinning is a person who is constantly lowering themselves. Allah protect us. I mean, طيب. He says, كلما صغر الذنب في عين العبد عظم عند الله. He said, the more that a person, we know belittle. What's belittle? Downgrade. Huh? Downgrade a person. Or what's another word? Lower. Ridicule. But if you belittle a sin, what does it mean if I belittle a sin? It's not a big deal. You don't give it its word. Ain't no big deal. Because it be sins going on all day, y'all. Sins is running all day long on the internet in front of us. Everywhere it's sins all day long. So a lot of times we get, as they say, we get numb. The first time something happens, astaghfirullah, but it happens so much. You say, man, John, that's how they be. Right? He said that every time a person, I forgot the word you said, belittle. No, what's the other one? Which is look down. Belittle a sin. Whenever you belittle a sin, you don't give it its worth. Or you treat it like it's not important, like it's no big deal. Whenever you do that to sins, that's not a big deal like that. When you treat sins like that, disobeying the law like that, he says, whenever a person do that, yeah, you downplay the sin. Whenever you downplay a sin, he says that sin becomes a greater sin with Allah. Yes.
Prophet Sallallahu
Sorry,
Alaihi Wasallam said that the mu'min, the believer, sees his sins as a mountain about to fall on him.
No doubt.
But the munafiq sees his sins like a fly flying in his face. He just wave it away.
No doubt. The believer sees a sin, we do something wrong, and we're supposed to feel bad. We're supposed to feel bad. That's why the Prophet said the believer sees a sin like a mountain about to fall over on him. Fear, feel terrible. We're not supposed to be committing sins, and we like got this thing, we got our chest poked out like ain't no big deal. It is what it is. Like a person disobeys Allah, and they got the attitude like it's no big deal. That's not the approach, and that's not the mentality of the believer. So he says every time that a person treats a sin like it's not important, he says, "Azuma indallah," it becomes a great sin with Allah Jalla wa'ala. We got to be careful that because the sin becomes normal, that we're not okay with it. Because something becomes normal, that doesn't mean that we should be okay with it. Everybody with me? Tell you, there's plenty of sins that have become normal practice now. Normal practice now. The Muslims are involved, the non-Muslim, everybody's involved in a sin. And just because that's the case, it doesn't make it right. And it doesn't mean that we have to accept it. And it doesn't mean that we should be okay with it. Now, because I'm not okay with it, that doesn't mean everybody's going to stop doing it. People going to do what they're going to do. That's on them. But me as a Muslim, knowing that that goes against Islam, I shouldn't be okay with that. Even if everybody's doing it. Everybody clear? Like Zina, that's been going on. Zina, in case we don't know, sex outside of marriage, no matter how widespread it is and how much people, Islamically, it's not okay. We're supposed to get married. We're Muslims. We're supposed to get married. Everybody's doing it. That don't make it right. What else? Gambling, drugs, alcohol, huh? Oh man, TikTok dancing. Man, Allah forgive us, man. Music, the fitna of music, the fitna of music. We Muslim, we don't act like we don't know music, like we don't know music and the problem in the music. We don't have an argument about music, halal or haram. No, we're not going to look at the problem in the music, the message the music is promoting. All the Muslim kids, your Muslim wife in the car, Muslim kids in the car, and you got one of these rappers on talking about killing people and sex and all that, and we got Muslim kids in the car with Muslim names, and we act like that ain't no issue. Allah forgive us, man. Like for real, we honestly, we going to ride around and act like that's not an issue. So fitna, huh? Part of the culture, Jade. The culture can be wrong when it comes to deen. Yes, the culture has a part, but the culture can be facet. The culture can be wrong, right? When the culture goes against deen, the culture is wrong. It's a fitna. The music is fitna. It's fitna. When you're talking about, oh, they different. When you're talking about, yo, what the music you got on, what are they talking about? Let's just talk about what's being spoken about in the music besides drugs, zina, sex, murder, total disrespect to women, total disrespect to human people. Self-amazement, that's your joint today, self-amazement, right? The arrogance that comes, all of that. We act like none of that, Islam doesn't promote any of it. Islam is against all of that. And we're going to ride around with a whole car full of Muslim kids in it, husband, wife, all supposed, come on. Fitna, that's a fitna. That if we don't recognize it, it keep goes. You can't fix a problem if you don't know it's a problem. And if I'm just saying, a person comes in, and, as we say, a person comes and advises you about the music, day tripping. You overboard, you on all that, we Muslim, what we supposed to do? Huh? The haram police, may Allah protect us. I don't know who came up with that. But you don't want to, like, what's a haram cop? Haram police. Like the problem with statements like that is that the Prophet, Allah Jalla wa mentioned in the Quran about commanding the good and forbidding the evil. You want to mock it? You trying to make a mockery of people who command the good and forbidden the evil? That's the problem with that kind of stuff. You calling somebody the haram police, right? But Allah praised the people in the Quran who command the good and forbid the evil. Command the good and forbid the evil, that's part of our deen. Are you trying to mock what Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned in our deen? Haram police? Now, for the fact that I'm saying that, I'm overboard. You see what I'm saying? You going too deep. Ain't no too deep. We Quran Sunnah and shit. Quran Sunnah. Anything that go against it, it don't matter. All of us are held to that standard.
Just like how you said that flag off sins and stuff. I think people flag off the shaitan. Like they don't show how serious it is.
No doubt.
You know what I'm saying? How much weight
Sahih.
especially on the internet.
Sah. The tricks of the
They don't
shaitan.
really, grasp the concept that he really trying to throw us off. Or that,
No doubt. That the shaitan is real and his job is to keep us off track and throw us off. He said some people might not shaitani, like it's not a real thing, like it's not real. When Allah told us in the Quran, He's your enemy, right? Treat him as your enemy. Allah Akbar. I'm sorry, Father.
Yeah, two things. first, when you just said about enjoying the good forbidden, isn't that, I don't know if it's the right word, a condition, because you know better than me, doesn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say that you're the best nation raised up for mankind?
Yes.
Because you enjoy.
Yes, that's what Allah said. You're the best generation from raised up for mankind in the Quran because you enjoying the good, forbid the evil. But you're going to turn around and call me the haram police. That's ignorant. Number one, it's ignorant. Number two, it shows a person has no knowledge about what Allah said in the Quran. And then the problem with that is, y'all, we'll take that and spread it, and we're going to take it and go call somebody else that. We got to be careful not to make istihza of the deen, which is mockery. Making istihza of the deen is mockery. And we got to be careful because mockery of the deen is a type of kufr, type of disbelief. So we got to be careful when we coming up them type of terms and stuff like that. But the fact that I said that, I'm overboard and extreme. But when Allah says it in the Quran about istihza, right? The story about the Sahaba and they make istihza, what we going to say about the verse? If I didn't say it, if you read the verse, what you going to say about the verse? Take me out of it. The verse and the story with the companions about making istihza. And he said, we were just playing and we were just joking. What's the term? As we say, we just passing time. It was a joke. We just joking. We bidding. No, we just bidding. It wasn't on that deep. No, don't make it istihza of our deen. It's our deen. Don't play with this. It's a bunch of stuff you could joke about. Why are you going to bring them into this? This is sacred. This is nowhere to be joking like that. This is not Quran and Sunnah. This is a sacred sanctuary. Don't joke with these, with this. You can find plenty of stuff to joke about, but not that. He said after that a sin ليس مقتصرا على فعل المعصية فحسب بل إن التقصير في أداء الواجب من جملة المآثم. A sin is not just disobedience, right? He says when a person does a sin, and he mentions the statement of Shaykh Islam Taymiyyah, he says a sin is two things that happens when a person commits a sin. Fara'an. Number one, a person leaves off an obligation and they do something haram when they sin. They left off an obligation and at the same time they did something haram. It's obligatory to what? Obey Allah. So when a person sins, they left the obligation of obeying Allah and at the same time they did something haram. That makes sense? At the same time, far'an. He said, "Wal ma'asi far'an, tarkul wajib wa fi'lu ma'siyah." I'm sorry, wa fi'lu muharram, and doing something that is haram. He says, "Faman taraka ada' al-wajib ma'al qudra alayhi fahuwa 'asin." He says, so whoever leaves off an obligation, whoever doesn't do what they're obligated to do as a Muslim, right? And they have the ability to do it, then this person is a sinner in that case. For example, what's an example of a person, they don't do what's obligatory and they have the ability to do it? An example of a person not doing the obligation with the ability. They can do it, they just don't do it. Pay the zakat. They got the money been set. They made all the requirements, the obligations, conditions for zakat, and they don't pay it. Jade, that's important. A person, when it comes to the salat, a person has the ability to stand in the salat and they sit down. Is it permissible to sit down and pray? With conditions. It got to be conditions. It is permissible according to who we're talking to. What's the situation? If you walked in the masjid, Sheikh Abdul Razak said this one time. He was talking about the person walked in the masjid, they walked all around, they walked over, grabbed a chair, and then when it came time to pray, they sat down. I'm supposed to sit down in the prayer once I get to a point where I can no longer stand. If I can no longer stand, then I sit down. If I could stand, I should stand. So the obligation, and that is to stand with the ability. What else? A person can do the obligation. Fasting, Jade. A person has the ability to fast, and they just don't fast. That makes that person in that situation a sinner. I'm able to fast Ramadan, but I just don't fast. Praying in the masjid. We say praying in the masjid specifically. I'm going to rephrase it for you. Praying in the masjid to us means praying in jama'ah, congregation. You got the ability. You're sitting home, right? You got a car, or you live close to the masjid. You can go there, but it's 2 minutes left in the fourth. It's tied up. Game 7 and all that. Elimination game.
It's not even that. Sometimes if you're in the walking distance of the masjid, right?
Mm.
And this happened to me before. If you, let's say you live like 6, 7 blocks from the masjid, but springtime, summer, you want to leave your car, you're gonna walk.
Right.
How many people do you salam on the way?
Salam alaikum. Sheikh. Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khairan.
They just hanging out. You know, and I'm saying it from experience.
Right.
Like, you pass.
Oh, you walking by people on the way there, and yeah, no doubt. Muslims, they got the ability to be there.
And may, like you said, may wait to the end before they go in the house and pray, or they miss a salat altogether.
Well, you done prayed and came back for 2 salats. They still
They
there.
still the same.
They might have prayed on the corner. Allah forgive us, man. Allah forgive us. I'm gonna mention this for the brothers. The ability, and I'm only using these terms so that people understand what's going on. The ability to give your wife her maintenance and you don't. The ability to give your wife her maintenance and you don't. That's a sin. The man is supposed to take care of the wife, right? There are obligations that are on the man when it comes to taking care of the household and the wife or wives. That obligation can be filled, and a brother doesn't do it with the ability to do it as a sin. Everybody clear? Sisters have an obligation towards their husbands. I hope the sisters know the obligation towards their husbands. And I'll use the words that I know some people cringe. Huh? No, that ain't the problem. The problem is not that. I think that's probably easy. Obedience. Obeying the husband. That's what you signed up for. Some sisters here obey and have a meltdown. And the Prophet ﷺ said, if I were to command anybody to make sajda to another person, I would have commanded the wife to make sajda to her husband, even though nobody makes sajda to anybody, any person. But that's how serious the obligation is. We got obligations. We have obligations as husbands. The wives have obligations as wives. To fulfill the obligation, have the ability to do it and not do it is a sin. May Allah protect us. Ameen. Tayyib. He says, Al-ma'asi tuzilu nur al-qalb wa barakat al-ilm. And this is important. He says, sinning removes the light from a person's face. The nur, the light in a person's face. You ever see a brother? I'm not saying a brother's light skinned. The brother don't have to be light skinned. A Muslim doesn't have to be light skinned for them to have a shining, bright face. Everybody with me? That brightness is lost in a person's face by a person continuously sinning. Everybody clear? Has anybody ever seen a person, they just look, mashallah? They glowing. That's what we say. You say, you glowing, mashallah. Right? It said that nur is removed by sinning, and also the blessing of knowledge, the barakah, the blessing that a person has of knowledge is removed. It's a famous statement by Imam Shafi, rahimahullah. Poetry he wrote when he said he complained to his sheikh, Waqi' Su Hifli for Arshadani la Taqma'asi. He said, I complained to my sheikh, which his name was Waqi'. Waqi' is the Sheikh of Imam Shafi'i, rahimahullah. So he said he complained to Waqi' about his weak memory, his bad memory. So his teacher told him to stay away from sinning. He said, because ilm nur, because knowledge is a light from Allah, and Allah is not going to give that light to a person who's sinning. So he told him to stay away from sinning. And Imam Shafi'i, rahimahullah, was known to have, like, in our terms, almost like a photographic memory. Imam Shafi'i, rahimahullah. So when he complained about his bad memory, for us, it'd be hard to memorize. What are we looking at all day? What are we listening to all day? What are we talking about all day? And then we turn around and say, I can't memorize Allah's book. This knowledge is light, ilm nur. Why would Allah give you that light? Why would he give it to us if we're not doing the things that we need to be doing? We're doing the things that will put the light out, as they say. Don't put the light out, as he was told. Don't put the light, I forget who said it. He said, don't put the light of Allah out by sinning. Yes. Say that to Imam Shafi, Sahih. Imam Malik said it, Sahih. Imam Malik, he saw how sharp Imam Shafi was, rahimahullah. In his intelligence, he was sharp, Imam Shafi, rahimahullah. Imam Malik told him, don't put that light out, that light of knowledge. Don't put it out by sinning. Don't extinguish the light with sin. Allahumma musta'an. طيب. He says, أثر الذنوب قد يظهر على من تحت يد العاصي. He said the effect of sins could, as we say, spill over and affect people that we're responsible for. My sin could affect the people in my household. Everybody clear? طيب. It says, قال فضيل ابن عياد رحمه الله إني لأعصي الله فأعرف ذلك في خلق حماري وخادمي. Fudail, rahimahullah, said, it's possible I disobey Allah, and I can see the result in how my donkey responds. My donkey started acting funny. And my servant, the one that works for me, everybody started acting funny when I disobey Allah. Right? Everybody clear? Statement of Fudail ibn Iyad. That's Fudail ibn Iyad. That's his statement. Is that statement a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? No. Is it a hadith of a companion? Fudail's a companion? Fudail's not a companion, right? This is all I'm trying to get to. It's not a hadith, and it's not a statement of the Sahaba. So we know the statement in itself is not dalil. It's not like a piece of evidence. But what's the benefit of mentioning the statement? Because Fudail is from the Salaf. One of the benefits is that you see the mentality of the Salaf. This is how they looked at sins. If I disobey Allah, as we used to say, I don't know if people still say it, my riding beast. Wonder why the car riding funny? That's what people used to say. The tranny slipping, come out in the morning, it's a flat tire, everything going wrong with the car. And then people used to say, man, just like Fudail ibn Iyad said, maybe you sinning, akhi. That's how it was like 20 years ago. Maybe you sinning, akhi. If your car keep getting messed up, maybe it's a sin you need to leave. That's how we used to talk. Maybe it's a sin you need to leave off. If you say that to somebody now, they'd probably be ready to argue with you. But Fudail said he used to see the effect of his sins in his donkey. They used to ride donkeys, and they used to use them for transport and stuff like that. We're using cars. We're not using donkeys, right? And he used to see it in his servant, that the sin could affect the people that you're in charge of. طيب. It says here, توهم بعض الناس في أمر الذنب إذ لم يروا تأثيره في الحال فقد تأخروا تأثيره. He says some people وينسون أنه من أثر الذنب. Some people, they think that, for example, if they don't see any effect from the sin immediately, they don't think it's possible that the effect of the sin could come later. They don't see no effect of the sin right now. So then we do what? We forget about the sin. And then the effect pops up later on. Everybody clear? Huh? No? Anybody got an example?
It's like delayed gratification, but
No, they get their gratification now, but the result and the problem from what they did, they don't see no problem right now.
I got an example. I don't remember the
Fadda.
name, but in Sheikh Raslan's book, he said he raised an example of that same category like that with sin, where he said one of the students from the cellar, he said he looked at something that was inappropriate,
Hey, now.
and his teacher saw him, and he said, "Young man," he said, if not for a while, you're going to see the effects of that sin." So he said, he kept waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And he said he never saw, nothing happened. Nothing ever happened. He said some years later, he went to sleep thinking about it, only to wake up to find out that he had lost the memorization of the whole Quran.
Hey, stuck for the love. We wonder why we be forgetting ayat. We memorize verses and can't remember them. I used to know that surah, let alone the sin of forgetting the Quran. But I used to know that surah. I used to know that. I used to know that. And that's the next one, which is min uqubat al-ma'siyah nisyan al-ilm. From the punishments of disobedience, disobeying Allah, is forgetting the knowledge that you used to know. That's the very next point. I used to know that. I remember reading that. Can't remember anything. You can remember very little, right? Based on sinning. Shaykh al-Islam rahimahullah said, for this reason, qila. It said, this is why it said, inna min thawab al-hasana ba'daha. The reward for doing a good deed is that another good deed comes after that. Another good deed comes after that. وَمِنْ عُقُوبَةِ السَّيِّئَةِ سَيِّئَةَ بَعْدَهَا. And from the punishments of doing a bad deed, a sin, is that more sins follow up. More sins follow. نِسْيَانُ الْعِلْمِ. He says here, كذلك العمل السيء. طيب السن يعاقب صاحبه في الحال بظلمة في القلب. He said also when a person does a sin, the punishment is that there's a black dot placed on the heart, right? وقسوة وضيق في صدره. And as they say, the heart becomes hard, a hard heart. What does it mean to have a hard heart though? Be mean, person's mean, hard heart. No softness. They're not allowed to be, they won't, no gentleness, no leniency.
You can't tell good from good. You can't tell bad from bad.
Being able to establish between right and wrong.
Use the ability to be able to differentiate between what's right and what's wrong. Right? Refusal to be soft and kind to people from sinning. طيب. It says, وَالنِّفَاقِ, all of this from sins, hypocrisy, right? And this is the point, he mentioned this for this part, وَالنِّسْيَانِ مَا تَعَلَّمُهُ, and forgetting what they learned. Forgetting what they learned. He said, وَانْسِدَادْ بَابِ الْعِلْمِ بَابْ عِلْمٍ كَانَ يَطْلُبُهُ. He said, and from the effect of sins is that a person was trying to learn a certain thing, and the pathway to trying to learn that thing was shut off. Everybody? A person was trying to learn a certain knowledge, for example. But due to the sins, the access that they had to that knowledge was closed off, and they can no longer get the knowledge. That person can no longer get it. Maybe other people can get it, but that person no longer is able to get to that knowledge. He said, it's deep, ain't it? Sins close the door to be able to attain the knowledge. It's dangerous. طيب. He says, بل قد يحرم من العلم. Even more, a person might just be I'm gonna use the word, but not like a person might just be like blocked from learning. They're not even able to learn based on their sins. They're not able to learn. يحرم من العلم. Right? Not that they don't have a brain and the physical ability. They're not even able to get to the how to do it, get to the place to learn. Anything that's will enable them to get the knowledge, they'll be blocked from it. All, as we say, it's always something. That's how we term it. It's always something. Every time I try to, we gotta look at ourselves. What am I doing? Maybe it's a sin I'm committing that I need to stop. And the law opens some other doors for me. From the,
in the class,
mm.
and like you said, it hurts so hard, and they don't even
No doubt.
understand nothing that was being said. They
No doubt.
left with no benefit.
Sahih. A person could be in the class or in the Jummah, and the heart is so hard from sinning, they can't even digest it. It doesn't affect them from so many sins that they don't even, you ever be talking to somebody and they don't get it, right? It could be the sins preventing the person from even comprehending and understanding. And then some of us, years later, the same thing will come up again when you're in a better situation in your life, you're doing better, and it's crystal clear, the same issue that you couldn't get 6 years ago. But if you look at yourself 6 years ago and compare to yourself now, you find yourself in a better position as a Muslim. You might just, in this case, you might have just been a person, as we say, you're not really deening. And you not really deening is not going to, right? That sinning is going to block your comprehension. You with me? طيب, now he brings a statement of him. He says, لما جلس الإمام الشافعي بين يدي مالك رحمه الله وقرأ عليه أعجبه ما رأى من وفور فطنته وتوقد ذكائه وكمال فهمه. He said, Imam Malik rahimahullah, he was amazed at Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah. He was amazed at his intelligence and his level of knowledge. So he said to him, فقال إني أرى الله قد ألقى على قلبك نورا. He said to Imam Shafi'i, I see that Allah has put light in your heart. Right? He says, فلا تطفئه بظلمة المعصية. So don't put out the light that Allah gave you by disobeying Allah. Now, Imam Malik rahimahullah, is he a companion? No, it's not a hadith. Therefore, we know from the other class, his statement is not dalil. It's not evidence. But if you look at the closest, this is the Salaf, you look at the mentality of the Salaf and how they look at their sins, that should be something that we take and we say, okay, if we're following the Salaf, okay, how did they look at sins? They looked at it like, yo, number one, the Prophet ﷺ told us that the believer sees his sins like a mountain about to fall over. Right? That was the Prophet ﷺ told us. He's saying Allah gave you light. Don't extinguish that light by sinning. That's how they view disobeying Allah. That's what we benefit from these type of narrations. From the things we benefit is the mentality that they had. And these are people that we say we love and we follow. طيب. He says, وَمَنْ تَرَكَ ذَنْبًا خَوْفًا مِنَ اللَّهِ عَوَّضَهُ اللَّهُ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا. Whoever leaves off a sin out of fear of Allah, that Allah will replace it with some good that's way better than that. The problem is we have to be able to ourselves be like, not tell people, I know I'm doing this and I'm wrong. I'm not supposed to be doing this. Especially Allah covered it. I need to be able to look at myself and say, I'm wrong in this. I need to stop doing this. Maybe I can't get this because of this sin I'm doing. Maybe Allah's not blessing me with this because of this sin I'm doing. Either way, if I stop and obey Allah, even if Allah doesn't give me what I was looking for, I'm still in a better position with Allah. Because I stopped to sin and I'm doing better as a Muslim. Even if I didn't get what I thought I was being blocked from. Everybody with me? Either way, I'm in a better position with Allah Ta'ala because I stopped the sin and I'm doing better. Yarhamakallah. He says, Qala Ta'ala, وَلِمَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ جَنَّتَانِ. And whoever fears the standing before Allah will have two Jannahs, two paradises. And that's in Surah Al-Rahman. لَهُ رَبِّهِ جَنَّتَانِ. This is the end. That's the last point in the book, which is page 99. Page 99. 17 classes, which is, let's say 6, 14, 4 months. 4 months is 16 weeks, right? 4 months. 4 months in a week. 17 classes, 4 months in a week to finish a 99-page book from beginning to end. Don't mean you memorize the whole book. Doesn't mean you remember everything in the book. But if I have notes, I at least know where to go back to find the answer for what I'm looking for. That's part of knowledge. Knowledge, not necessarily that I memorize every single thing the first time. I don't understand every single thing the first time, but at least I know where to find the issue. I know where to find the issue. I know what book I can go to, where my notes I can go to pull the issue back up. And he made a dua at the end. أسأل الله أن يرزقنا الإخلاص والأدب في طلب العلم وغيره. I ask Allah to give us sincerity and to give us adab, manners, when we're seeking knowledge and when we're doing anything else besides seeking knowledge. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. We'll stop there unless there's any questions, but I think it's time almost for the adhan. And if there's no questions, what's the day? Khalas.
Juma homework.
What's the Juma homework?
Juma homework. You asked for the 7 people.
Yes, who are they?
Aisha.
The 7 fuqaha.
Memorized the hadith.
Yeah.
Abu Huraira.
Ibn Abbas. Ibn Umar. Jabir ibn Abdullah. Anas ibn Malik.
Saeed.
Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. And Aisha, that's who she's mentioned with the 7 from the Sahaba when it comes to knowledge. That's major. رضي الله عنهم أجمعين صلى الله عليه وسلم وبارك نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.